Many people ask me after I finished Savage raiding in FF14, what is it like compared to WoW? You've farmed it now. You've done all the things. The tier is over. Man, one of the weirdest things about the whole process actually happened after our very first kill. And I want to talk about gearing, especially as World of Warcraft is now shaking up the gearing system, trying to bring it on par. I don't want to go into too much detail on that because my first impressions of it are that it like screws up the Great Vault. Maybe makes that a noob trap, so I think they're going to change it. But gear is a big deal for all of us. We like when number goes up, and then to hear this comment come from my raid leader made me take a second guess, because as a long time World of Warcraft raider, I had never experienced anything like it. What was it? It was we killed the final boss. We did it. We celebrated. We cheered. The nerd screams. You've all heard them. And then our raid leader says, right, 7 more to go. And then raiding is done. It's over. And that is not something that I have ever heard when it comes to World of Warcraft until like end of season and stuff. So let me set the scene for you, because it was by far the most interesting aspect, I think, after getting the first kill. Obviously, we had the whole process of learning, adapting, growing, and then to actually complete a tier. It's done. It's finished. It's over. The season is done until the next season. Why is this happening? Obviously, we're all used to, or at least most of us are used to World of Warcraft, where gearing never stops. It is the focus of World of Warcraft. It is the core gameplay loop. It doesn't matter what it is, pretty much. It's all about making that number go up. You guys have been there. You've been out doing your delves. You've been out praying. You've been doing all these things to eventually walk your ass up to that Great Vault, hoping to see something magnificent waiting for you, joining pugs, doing heroics, whatever it might be. Very, very few people in World of Warcraft actually reach BIS. And I'm not talking about the nonsensical BIS that I see all the time. Especially, what is it with the classic players? Those guys, I'm pre-BRD BIS. I'm pre-this BIS. They have like 25 BIS lists. BIS is BIS. It's best in slot. There's no replacement for that. They have all these like stages that they go through to achieve. And I see them when I watch my friends play Classic. I'm sure you guys have seen it too. Is something will drop that is just like a trivially garbage piece of gear ultimately. And they're like, I need it. It's my Battlegrounds BIS or something. It's so funny to me. I understand that there's things to chase outside of raids. I'm not a moron, but they're all called BIS in some shape or form to have some sort of authority to claim some loot that you can very easily replace. But actual BIS, certainly in retail, current, whatever you want to call it, in retail WoW, achieving BIS is very, very, very rarely done. And there's always something extra that you can pretty much do to try and get stuff. It is the elite of the elite of the elite actually get there within a season. For everyone else, the core gameplay loop is to constantly be upgrading your character, make your damage go up, your tanking, your mitigation better, make your heals stronger so you can do more damage. All those elements are what make that game work. And nearly every core function of World of Warcraft, when it is added to the game, is in service of that goal. It has to reward something. I remember Ian telling me when I was somewhat fighting for Suramar back in Legion to be a big story-focused thing, is like, people in WoW don't really do anything unless it rewards power. People want power. That's what we do. Every quest that we have in the game must pretty much result in us killing stuff. It's got to happen. That's how we do that game. Final Fantasy XIV, then, is very different. Gear is not really a factor in a major way. I would argue the core gameplay loop of WoW, gear, getting stronger. In Final Fantasy XIV, I would argue their core gameplay experience that they're looking for is experience itself. They want you to take part in the experiences they give you. That's really their core gameplay loop. Their raid bosses are fantastical and over the top with massive cutscenes, but outside of raiding, their dungeons, their Criterion dungeons, which is their answer to Mythic Plus, all these treasure maps are all about having experiences, choosing things, gambling, having a social element to it. That's what their core focus is, and it creates this really diverse path. So let me explain gearing really quickly because it's going to be the core of what we're talking about. But talking about gear, guess what's coming up next month after 10 years? It's our 10-year anniversary. It is Preachcon 2026. That's right. The big 10-year anniversary is happening in August. I can't wait. It's a whole 2-day event. Meet your guildies, your favorite content creators. We've got a live stage show that is not streamed. We have an entire community day filled with prizes, quizzes, all sorts of stuff. A full fun experience. We've got a cosplay competition. We're going 80s themed. That is when I was born because I'm old. So there's going to be an 80s theme there of all sorts of things going on there. It has been a magnificent road to do this show for the last decade. It's probably the last one we're going to do in this format. We're going to mix it up to do some shared experiences in the future, which I'm very excited for. But it's the big one. 10 years. I hope you can make it. It's going to be in Manchester, England. 10 years of Preachcon 2026. August. Come see us. That's right, your favorite content creators all getting together. It's now turning into, it's 2 guaranteed days of fun from us, an optional 3rd day with a big party afterwards, and now there's already announcements up of a full week of events for people who are being down there. I love it so much. 10 years we've been doing this show. We're going to be changing it after this one from the live stage show to experiences. I'm going in a more FF direction because there's so many things we want to do as a community that many of you can't take part in because you haven't got like a close group of friends that want to take part in these experiences. So we're going to be looking to doing things like that in the future. I'm so hyped for it. I hope you get a ticket. There's very few left. I'm sorry I'm announcing it later on YouTube. But usually it goes fast when it's out, man. So the tickets are available now. I hope to see you in Manchester in August. That would be great. That would be really cool. Getting back to it then. Let's talk about Final Fantasy XIV and its gearing process. So this was a whole new experience for me as well. I had never bothered with gear in Final Fantasy XIV at all in any way. I pass pretty much everything that drops when I do a new raid boss or whatever to the raiders that I'm coming from a World of Warcraft lens, right? I've got these glasses on. So I pass all this stuff because I assume those guys need it. They don't. And they tell me they don't, and I think they're being nice. But it turns out, no, they don't. So how does it work? Well, gear is just a means to an end. Gear in Final Fantasy XIV is very, very boring. Certainly if you put it side by side with World of Warcraft and even Guild Wars 2. It's just stats. That's it. It's just blatant stats. You're not going to see trinkets with like a paragraph of text or anything like that. That's not going to happen. So the way the gearing works in Final Fantasy XIV is when a new season launches, and going forward into their new expansion, they're going to call it seasons, because that's what it is that you can get a bunch of crafted gear. And that's typically how it goes. If you watch the Final Fantasy Race to World first, what you'll see is the raiders will pile into the raid wearing pre-season gear that they got last time, and then they'll have a whole team of people in the background who are just crafting the new gear, and they'll just send it to them as they do pulls. They'll do a pull, some gear will be ready, they'll trade it to them, and they'll just keep going. And this is all stuff that somebody makes and puts on. This gear is very strong, really strong. It actually has a function that is unlike other gear called pentamelding. Obviously, you can put gems into your, or materia in 14. You can gem slot your gear, but with crafted gear, you can actually force more gems in than the slots available. So it'll come with like 2 slots, but you can get 5 of them into there by just essentially having somebody who puts gems into gear for you slam loads of gems at the item, and it has a chance to put them in. That's pretty cool. So you get this like fancy crafted pentamelded gear that you go in with, and then you get to the actual bosses. Here's the weird thing, and kind of what I wanted to talk about today, certainly in comparison to the lottery gamba that is World of Warcraft, everything is deterministic. It's all predetermined. You don't have like legs of the fallen father drop, which are the male legs that are going to either a shaman or a hunter or whatever, right? That's not what happens. In FF, ring drops, necklace drops, and that necklace just gets given to anybody who deserves it, and that just turns into the necklace for them. And that is guaranteed to drop every time you kill that boss. It is always there. There's no chance of it being like random, bonus loot, or anything like that. It is just predeterministically given to you. So when I went into raiding in Final Fantasy XIV, one of the first things my raid leader, Alex, Fat Boss Alex, asked me was for my BIS list. And that was already pre-done for me. So I just sent it to him. He's like, okay. And then he put a spreadsheet together, and it was like, okay, on week 1, blah, 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 we'll get this. Depending on the bosses we kill, obviously. And then first kill of this boss, you get this. Second week, you get this. And it was all just done. We never thought about it in the least. It was all done. But then there was another element of it that I thought was really cool. And even though it's been in the game forever and ever, and I've been looking at the game now for a good few years, I'd never bothered with it. And that is the books. This is going to play into it later on. The books. So not only does the item drop, which can go to anybody and it's guaranteed, you also get a book. And once you get a certain amount of books, so sometimes it's 4, sometimes it's more, and you get 1 guaranteed for every player per boss kill, you can just go and buy the loot from that boss. That's it. And this creates a very weird scenario, which is after not very long, you're done with the boss. Like, there's nothing you can possibly get, assuming you got the same raid team. There's nothing you can possibly get from that boss at all, in any way, shape, or form. You can't do it. Now, the only caveat to that is in order to access the later bosses, someone in your raid team needs to have killed the previous boss to get there, right? So similar to WoW, where, you know, we have skips to the last boss and stuff, but in your first few weeks, you do have to kill boss 1, 2, 3, 4 to get to your progress boss. It is the same in FF, despite the fact the bosses are individually split up into different instances. In order to access the second boss, you need to have killed the first one. This creates an interesting scenario called taxis, where during the reset, you will have people go into the player finder, the pug world. That's the police coming for me to claim my BIS loots. And we're good. Yeah, Manchester's on fire right now. If you don't know, Manchester is completely on fire. It's ridiculous. So anyway, you will get your... you'll have groups that will go in with raiders, and they will kill the early bosses in the player finder, so by the time raid time rolls around, they can just go straight to wherever they want to be. Similar to buying skips in World of Warcraft, which you can do in, you know, in various ways. So a similar process occurs, called a taxi, that you skipped there too. Okay, so firstly, I thought it was cool that my team decided to still kill the first bosses, even though we didn't need anything from them. It's a nice warm-up. It takes like 10 minutes. It's whatever. It's done. Let's get back to this, the end of the raid. In my entire, like, 20-plus years of playing World of Warcraft and raiding for a huge majority of that, raiding never stops. Really? Right? You might have a break, and obviously some guilds will differ here, so cut me a little rope on this. But generally speaking, raiding never stops. If you're in a raid guild, you're raiding throughout that season. Even when your team is, like, pretty much done, you know, let's say it's getting mounts. Like, people have got their mounts or whatever. What you'll have is people, like, start coming in on alts. Their character is kind of done. They're going to start coming in on alts. They'll reroll. You might divide the group into 2. You might start boosting people even if you're on the higher end. But you know, when you're in a raid guild, it's kind of expected that you're going to raid probably at least once a week. Like, the main goal of the raid guilds I've been in, certainly for the last decade, were to get raiding down to 1 night. We're still going to raid every week. And it's a really important factor for this to happen. There's a reason this occurs in World of Warcraft. And that is because it's, one, the source of best gear, but often you're made up of quite a large bunch of players, right? And they're raiders. And if you're not providing that thing that they're in the guild for, they're going to seek it elsewhere. Like, they joined to raid. You are going to have people who want to gear a variety of characters. Maybe for Mythic Plus, maybe for PvP. It doesn't really matter. But they want to play around on alts. They want to do that stuff. And they're in a raid guild. And so it's kind of expected that you will raid, right? We often see now, even in the higher... It's getting more and more. It used to be the exclusive realm of, say, the top 100. But now it's in the top 1,000 plus. People having multiple tanks, right? Your tanks don't just have their tank. They have 3 or 4 different tanks. So they're all ready to go and do stuff and get in there. And then you might want to, oh, I want to play a druid. So you now gear your druid. And you'll see this constant sort of washing machine recycling of players because it is just expected that you're going to raid. Now, there are definitely people out there listening to this who are like, I kill the last boss and then I'm done. And then I drop out, usually in the heroic sphere. But certainly as you go up to Mythic, and we are comparing Mythic to Savage here, that is not going to be the case. Only when coming up to the next season, you'll take a break, or some organized break, but generally you're going to keep raiding. At least that's my experience, all right? That's what I'll say. Is my experience is when I join a raid guild, it's pretty much expected you're going to be raiding throughout that entire season. You're just going to reduce the amount of time you're raiding by being more efficient and more powerful and trying to clear those raids as much as possible. Vice versa, a shelf life on FF. And again, I want to point out here, there are some teams that will continue to raid forevermore throughout the season, but the game does not promote that particularly. It actually takes a very different approach, which was new and interesting to me. So why the 8 raids? Okay, so there's 8 players, and there's mounts to get. So a simple idea would be that after 8 raids, everybody has the mount reward, so we have no reason to raid anymore. But then you would argue, well, what about gear? Right? What about gear? Well, that's where it comes into this predeterministic factor. I've explained to you, there's 4 bosses in the Savage Raid. They all have deterministic loot. Right? Everything is guaranteed. So you can pre-plan out everything that's get there, and then at a certain point, everybody will have the books. So if you didn't get the actual drop, you can just go and buy the thing that you were missing. Meaning that boss is now, loot-wise, dead to you. It's done and dusted. And that happens relatively quickly. Over the course of a few weeks, that will be done. Weekly reset as normal. What about the last boss then? This is where things change a little bit, and this is where the finale raid comes into it. Is that the final boss drops your bis weapon. That's where that comes from. But that is not deterministic. It will drop a weapon for one of the jobs in the game. Jobs are classes. It will drop a random weapon from there. Sometimes it will be somebody who's playing that job. That's their main job, and GG's, it goes to them. But not always, for sure. And that's where it gets a little weird. I actually got my best in slot mage weapon, and I play a healer before I got my healer weapon, because it dropped, and it's really a case of who wants it. Anybody going to play this? Well, I enjoy playing mage on occasion, so it went to me. I was like, all right, and I was quite open. I was like, I'm not sure I'm going to use it, but it's like, all right, it goes to you. But we have these books, and on the 8th week, you can buy any weapon at all for any job. You can just go and buy it, which guarantees that every single member of your raid team has their best in slot gear. It is done. Now, at that point, that's when we've had, say, 16 weapons total, right? 8 drops plus 8 books, 16 weapons. That's 2 weapons a piece on average, 1 point something, somebody didn't get one or whatever, and that's it. Now, that's when we called it. Now, I knew going into the raid, which is why I didn't even mention it in my first video, that this was going to happen. It was always the plan. And I think it's a discussion here of how do we feel about that? And I think everybody's going to have a really different feature on this. Now, as I said, that's 16 weapons. There are lots of jobs in the game. Some teams will carry on to get somebody their bis weapon for every job in the game. Certainly collectors would enjoy doing that. Some teams do that. And some of you, your WoW guys, were going, well, what do you do then? Right? Is your raid team just dead? As we just said, WoW players, it's kind of the glue that holds your raid team together is actually raiding. Without that, a lot of people are like, well, I want to raid, so I'm just going to leave the guild and go elsewhere. It's part of the social fabric. FF is not selling gear as the motivator. It's selling experiences, which is why they made everything evergreen. So you'll often have that team finish the current season and then go and work on a boss that actually came out like 10 years ago. They're going to progress that raid instead. Or they're going to do an ultimate that came out a few years ago. They're going to change direction and focus. I'll take a break. They're going to do all these different experiences. Very different gameplay loop, right? It's important you understand that, is that the games don't function the same while providing the same amount of content. So having this last raid was a very... Let's first of all explain what happened. We finished the boss, we one-shot it, which wasn't always the case, even on farm. We one-shot it, and then it was like, I need to go now. And a few people had to, not me, people were like, okay, I've got to go. Are we going playing Fellowship or whatever, right? People just went off and did other things. And it was very sort of like anticlimactic ending to this raiding experience, honestly. I was like, oh, okay. See you then. And then the weird thing was, see you next season. And everyone was like, yeah, cool. Because that's how that works. They were just like, yeah, sure. All right, I'll see you next season. I got what I needed to do. We'll see you next raid. And off you went. And those players are probably going to come back as well and do it. For me, I loved this. But that should come as no surprise to anybody who's watched my channel for a long time. Because I've always, given the seasonal nature of WoW, I have always, certainly for probably the 10, maybe 14 years, have found that farming gear over the course of a season to be a real waste of time for me. Because every time a new season in WoW comes, the loop just begins again. Like, everything you farmed previously, for the most part, is kind of useless, and you're going to replace it extraordinarily quickly by, in some cases, running M0s, and then doing Mythic Plus, and doing Heroic, is you just trash everything you might have spent months working towards, and I always found that leaving a bitter taste in my mouth. Long gone are the days where it's like you would carry your tier set you know, maybe WoD was a bit like that. You would carry this loot quite deep into the next raid until you eventually replaced it. Not really the case anymore, is that with all the other sources of gear that are available, you know, your bountiful delves or whatever, you're going to replace that really quickly. So as somebody who doesn't like farming raids, because I'm like, this is going to be useless to me soon, and just be replaced in the space of a couple of days. I can either invest months now or replace it in a couple of days. I was always the first to be like, okay, does anybody want my spot? Like, people were never surprised if my spot was available. I would turn up because I understand that the social fabric of the game is that we keep raiding. I totally get that. But if there's somebody sat there who's like, dude, I really want to get my, like, new mage in or my new priest or whatever, take my spot, dude. I am totally good with it. I've killed the last boss. I'm happy. I've got... On that journey, you've pretty much got most of your best gear anyway. I am absolutely fine. If you want me in, I'll be in. I'll be here and I'll be available. But I'm fine with giving up my spot. So to have a dead stop to raiding, for me, was really, really nice. It was like, okay, we're done, and I am more than happy to return later. That's my mentality. Yeah, I will totally come back, but I don't want to mindlessly farm. As long as everybody's okay with it. And I think that's the important thing here. And I think you all have different thoughts. Obviously, this was a pre-agreed thing going into the raid, is that we're going to clear until everybody has the mount and weapon, and then we're done. Other people will be of the case of, like, I want to collect all my weapons. I want to continue raiding, which does happen, which is why people, certainly in my raid team, a couple of them had alts to do that. But other than that, everybody came in with the same mindset and the same agreement, is like, we're going to kill it and then we're going to stop. And I'm sure some guilds in WoW work the same way. But it was the first time I'd experienced this pre-scheduled ending that wasn't very long. I really enjoyed it so much. It was a little flat at the ending, but like, it was a new experience to me. But I think more importantly, how was it, and I think this is a discussion that's more important, is how was it having predeterministic loot and not caring about it? I have mixed thoughts on this. On the one hand, it's nice to not care about loot, because some people, as you all well know, take loot way too seriously. Them purple pixels can drive people to a froth. If you ever watch my Drama Time show, you will know that the insanity those pixels cause for certain people. I'm not that way. I haven't been for a long time. What I did miss, though, it's not as easy as black and white. It never is. It's like, okay, here's your gear, put it on. I never got excited about getting a single piece of loot. Didn't care at all. It was basically, I got given whatever my loot was, so a pair of legs, and I checked which gems go in it. I slotted it in, and you would do this on a break between bosses. So like, as you come out, you kill the boss, you drop out to go into the next boss. It was like, okay, just stick your gems in and slap it on. That was, yeah, that wasn't that fun. I was hoping for something a little more than that. And you can't have it both ways, I guess. There's nothing in WoW where you get that sick trinket, dude. You know it. You know it. You get that sick trinket or that sick item, that new sword, that new weapon, whatever it might be, and you're like, ooh. And then you just see your damage go up like X%. Like, you just feel it happen. That is so, so cool. It is really fun, and it's really a highlight of constantly pulling on that Gamba machine to eventually get it. And also the ability to tick off your list of like, I got it, right? It might be something simple like a Gaze of the Allseer, and you're just like, got it, nailed it, right? Your Deathbringer's Will, whatever it is. Got it. That feeling is missing. But on the other hand, it's not the core focus of the game. This is that nuanced side of it, is it's not the core focus of the game. Would it be better served? This is the question that often comes up with a lot of people. It's like, would it be better if FF had better loot? Or would WoW be better if it had more predeterministic loot? And it really is not an easy question. But given now playing through both of their like end game raids, I haven't done an ultimate yet. We're planning to maybe do one, and I can't wait to share that experience with you. Given how different the games work, I think they're both in a pretty good place. Both systems can be better. I don't like WoW's... It's one of these. I'm not happy with how boring the loot is in FF14 particularly, but it's not the core of the game. They're actually focused on having this experience that is very fun, so it's a byproduct of that. The focus is over here, not here, so this experience is a little worse. Over in WoW, I really dislike, and I think many of us do, the fact that they release, 30 plus trinkets per season, of which 3 or 4 are pretty good. and the rest of them are just trash. It almost feels like in WoW, they have to go out of their way to create bad items just to have a lot of items. Because people like having a lot of items, and you can't have a slot machine without a lot of fails. Doesn't work that way. You can't have the good without having the bad. And so you need that constant slot machine element in order to have a lot of dud prizes, essentially, which is what they are, in order to make that work. There are new changes where they're going to allow you to transfer their cantrip items over. I think is a nice touch, and also predetermine with the catalyst the ability. If you've not seen this, you should check it out. The predetermine what the secondary stats are going to be, because that is definitely something I bump into in WoW. Is like, I don't need that level of RNG. Is that like I have to pick and choose between tier sets that don't have great stats for me. They're alleviating it somewhat and trying to balance up the Gamba, but they can't get rid of it entirely because it is their core loop. It is their core focus. I'm really curious on what your thoughts are. Personally, again, this has cemented how different these games are in their approach, and I really love that I can not play FF right now at all and be absolutely fine next season very quickly with just acquiring the crafted gear and being on my merry way without missing a heartbeat, right? You can come in, and you might have seen teams like Echo's team, for example, just go and decide to do the new FF raid without having to have done a bunch of farming or anything like that, or dedicate. There's a definite advantage to not being like, okay, I need to farm Mythic Plus for foreseeable future to make sure that vault's filled. I might want to do my delves in order to fill that out. I need to make sure I've done a certain amount of raid bosses to unlock various vault slots. All that organization and crest farming and all that kind of element put into that. But it is their focus. So it makes sense for them to do that and not over here. You know what? I don't even think this is a middle ground. That is like, oh, there's something in between that works both ways. I don't think so. I don't think so. At this point, I wish that WoW was less RNG, but it is the fun part of it. Maybe less sources of RNG is what I would say, right? Less sources of RNG would be nice. And I still feel, I just wanted to put this out there as well. I logged into WoW for the first time in a few weeks to record some stuff for this, and realized that my character, which hasn't done anything since heroic, a bit of heroic of the first tier of the raid, still is not benefiting from any of the world content. He's outgeared it all. And I was like, that's the bit that sucks. It still sucks over there. Like, in FF gear is a non-factor, really. It's more of a barrier to entry to make sure you're at least somewhat powerful to get in. So they will have some item level cutoffs for brand new stuff. But if you played any of the previous season, you're probably fine. And WoW, I still feel that horrible feeling of the Mythic tax, even though I'm not doing Mythic right now, of so much of the game is a waste of time for so long. Because it's so easy to acquire gear from other sources that I do feel like so much of the content is in service of hopefully at some point, maybe on the reset in the Great Vault, getting an item. Which is a little concerning considering their changes recently. I'd love to see your thoughts on this, of these two approaches. My summary to my FF14 raiding experience is all positive. All positive. But I stand by what I said. Regardless of the games and their gearing methods and their focus and all that kind of stuff, the fun was playing with people. That's what it is. Playing with fun people. It's still the same thing. I don't care about the mechanical structure of it that much. It's about getting together with a bunch of funny people who, I will say again, most of my raid team is going to be at Preachcon, and your raid team could be there too. So if you want to meet them, good opportunity. I'll see you again. Bye, guys.